Okay, excellent. So it's three after. If anybody shows up still while we're rolling here, that's a-okay. There's ample opportunity to catch on up. I didn't even introduce myself yet to everybody. My name's Dave Glantz. I'm going to be your facilitator for today, walking you through everything M365 security related inside of Office.com. Inside of the Teams chat, Tyler just dropped in credentials for everybody. Let me kind of show you what this looks like. So if I maybe kind of expand this a little bit, there we go, a little bit easier to see. What you're going to find is a column with your name, and then next to it, a persona name, a persona email, and then today's password. Okay. So what you're going to want to do with these credentials is head on over to office.com, preferably in a private or incognito browser window. Click on sign in, top right hand corner. Use the provided credentials to get into today's demo environment. You're going to want to use the demo environment because everybody has admin privileges associated with these demo accounts. So you're going to get to do more than maybe you typically would with your, if anybody does have like a standard account or anything like that. While everybody's getting signed in, I'd like to go ahead and bring in today's sponsor. We do have Donna from OnPar with us here today. Donna, would you like to introduce yourself briefly to all these fantastic people?
Sure, Dave. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Donna Hall, and I am with OnPar Technologies. I'm the Director of Business Development here at OnPar, and we're one of Microsoft's larger partners, implementing everything from basic email all the way to the security suite of products that we're going to talk about today. So we've been doing this for many years. We were doing um, Office implementations when it was called BPOS. So a lot of people don't even know that it ever had a different name because it didn't really take off until Microsoft renamed it to O365. So we've been in the business for a while. We've seen a lot and would love to help you with some of your security implementations if you don't have that expertise on your staff. So happy to have you here, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you, Donna. Much appreciated. And then I'm taking a peek at the chat here. Michael, there you go. Tyler just dropped in credentials for you. And then Sean said signing in with Google worked for him. Perfect. Yeah. Hey, whatever's clever. However you're able to get in will work as long as you're using the provided credentials. Excellent, excellent. All right. Now, I do have a little poll question here to kind of kick us off, get us started, since we're all here to learn more about M365 or O365 security, right? So this poll question just has to do with what are your primary concerns or challenges that your organization faces regarding 365 security implementation? Is it a lack of expertise or resources, budget constraints, integration with existing systems, regulatory compliance requirements, or is it just something else? Or is it maybe, when we say other, is it something you're just kind of exploring, something you're curious about, right? So we've got a couple of poll questions that we'll kind of throw out here as the session rolls, just to kind of keep us engaged and just kind of, get the minds whirring and running. Okay, awesome. So when it comes to everything that we're going to be doing today in lockstep, please, please, please don't hesitate to shout me down if you fall behind or you're lost or you don't exactly know where I'm at. Sometimes caffeine gets the better of me, so please don't hesitate to yell at me to slow down. I'm more than happy to make sure everybody's with me here. Now, when we talk about security, probably one of the biggest reasons that a lot of you are here is because you do realize it is one of the most important aspects of your architecture, right? Because it's providing assurance, of integrity, availability, and confidentiality as well against, deliberate attacks in any sort of abuse of your valuable data and systems as well. Now, when it comes to Microsoft security specifically, though, okay. It's really based on four pillars. So you've got identity and access management, information protection, security management, and threat protection. So when we talk about those four, Identity and access management is really all about just making sure the right people have access to the right resources at the right time. Okay, so this is going to include things like conditional access, a big one that everybody should be using, maybe most of us are, hopefully, multi-factor authentication and identity protection as well. The second pillar being threat protection. So this is more about protecting you against cyber threats, things like malware, viruses, and any other sort of malicious activity. So we're talking features like anti-phishing protection, ransomware detection and recovery, and some advanced threat analytics as well. The third pillar is information protection. So this is more about defending your sensitive data, things like your IP, okay, your financial data, your customer information. So it's going to include some features like data classification, encryption, DLP, which we're going to dive into today. And then the fourth pillar is security management, right? Because it's great to have all those other features and things that we're talking about, but being able to manage your security posture across the entire organization using monitoring, detection, response, and security incident remediation all from one hub, from one spot is huge, right? So that's where you can, you're really getting into things like your security score, your secure score, which are those are two different things, and your compliance manager. But altogether, when you take these four pillars, really just provides a comprehensive approach to securing the Microsoft products and services that you use all the time with your data that lives inside of them. Okay, so it's kind of like some big overarching context as far as today's concerned. And then as we roll on, we kind of get more and more into each one individually. Now, this is all fine and dandy. All these ideas and things are great, but you have to have licensing, right? Microsoft licensing in order to use Microsoft products. And so, some of the things that we do will be, tier specific, and I'll try to point those out as we roll along. But I do want to touch on the three big ways about going and getting licensing in case you don't already have it, or maybe you do and it's something that you haven't revisited in a while. So the three big ways that you go about getting licensing is super simple. You've got enterprise agreements, you've got pay as you go, and then you've got your cloud service provider models. Okay, so the first one being your enterprise agreements. These types of agreements are more so with companies that are 500 seats, 1,000 seats or higher, and that's where you're buying your services directly from Microsoft. You're kind of in like a fixed price long-term contract ranging anywhere from 1 to 3 years. The second one, be it the pay as you go, that's kind of like the credit card method. Okay, typically that's going to be used by smaller companies just to manage their costs at retail price. It is the easiest to start and stop. That's fair to say, but it does come with a catch. Okay, it's also the most expensive method of licensing, and pricings fluctuate too. Okay, so sometimes you may feel like you're getting package deals, but a lot of times what ends up happening with that pay as you go is you get the things that you absolutely need and want, but then you're stuck paying for a bunch of junk you don't really need or want. Okay, and then there's the third option, which is the cloud service provider contract. Okay, and those are offered through managed service providers, so partners like OnPar. Okay, and what they're able to do is work for customers of any size and offer a lot of flexibility in the contract. So they're able to work with you directly on what's included for your contract, making it customized. And because it's customized, more often than not, it's also cheaper. And there's also some other things that, there's some other methods to the madness, I guess you could say, as far as how you're managing the costs and spreading them out. Sometimes you can get deals where you're paying an annualized price, but it's spread out over 12 months. I mean, there's so many different unique solutions that can be utilized there. But yeah, Donna, and I'm sorry if this is out of the blue, but is there anything else that you would add about licensing if somebody doesn't have it and they need it? Anything else you would add there?
Most definitely. So we are a direct CSP with Microsoft. So we're part of that third wheel or third leg of the stool, as you may say. So adding licenses with us and getting a discount off the published price with Microsoft, depending upon your size, and being able to pay monthly. You can have monthly, month-to-month contracts or monthly and yearly contracts. It's just all of it's billed on a monthly basis. But if you can get some pretty decent cheaper pricing if you go into that yearly agreement billed on a monthly basis. And we work with you on that. And a lot of times what we find is people have gone into this O365, M365 environment and they have a license that they don't really need. And we'll do a license evaluation and try to find them cost savings there, because they may have a person that only needs email and they're paying for a full-blown, business standard or something like that. So it's always great to have an expert look at that with you and see if you can have some cost savings, and then you can implement these security pieces with that cost savings that you find.
And that's massive, right? Because I guarantee there's going to be some things that we look at today that some of us are going to want to have access to. And sometimes we may look at the price and go, gosh, I don't know. But like Donna just mentioned, there's a really good shot that a lot of us inside of our organizations, we're paying for licensing that is just not used, right? And is not optimized. So the quickest way to get that fixed and actually get the things that you want to use is by revisiting your licensing. I truly think that's one of the quickest, easiest finds out there. So perfect. All right, let's keep on rolling here. So we're actually going to jump straight into one of the pillars that we talked about a few minutes ago, being the information protection and security management pillar. So kind of both of them in a sense. More specifically, we're going to get into data loss prevention. Okay. When we talk about data loss prevention, this is really about leveraging the labeling and classification capabilities of Microsoft information protection to apply some policies, okay, and just some actions to, some different sensitive items across different locations and platforms. And so if I were to just put it simply, DLP really just kind of helps you mark and sort your data, okay? Then you get to set the rules and the policies to protect your important data wherever it's stored, and also with whoever is actually using it, right? So the way that we can get into creating a DLP policy here today is from our office.com main hub here, front page, right? Go ahead and come on over to the left-hand side of the screen where my cursor is, and go ahead and click on this admin button. It's kind of off in this menu here. I'll leave my cursor here for a second so everybody can see it. Then what we're going to do, left-hand side again, go ahead and click on this horizontal ellipses that says show all. Go ahead and give that a click. Then you're going to see a lot more blades become available. We're going to come on down to where it says admin centers, and we're going to jump into the compliance admin center. It's going to ask me to sign in here. Just give me a second. There we go. It'll take just a second here to load. And then left-hand side again, you should see that blade that reads data loss prevention. Go ahead and expand that. And then let's come on over to the overview blade. Okay, now before I go any further, what I want to do with everybody is just make sure the pace is okay, make sure everybody's with me. If you're in the same place that I am, inside of our Teams chat here, inside of the meeting, please give me a G2G, a good to go. Lets me know that you're with me, you're ready to rock and roll. If anybody's having issues navigating or you had any issues logging in, now's a great time to get those out of the way. And don't be shy, by the way. It's all good if anybody's having issues. But I'm seeing a ton of good to goes rolling through the chat, which is a great sign. And I appreciate that feedback. And I'll ask a couple times today, just because it does help me with pacing. Okay, great. So from this page here, this is really truly exactly what it sounds like. Okay, this is the overview regarding what policies you have currently enabled, what they're doing, if there's any alerts or trips, some information regarding sensitive, right? Sensitive data. Okay, tons of information to be gleaned just from here. This is just kind of like your high level, your one-stop shop, okay, when it comes to viewing all the information regarding your DLP policies that you have active. Now, the way that you can even create one, though, is first you have to come on over to this policies blade. So go ahead and join me here on policies. And then what you're going to find is there's a couple here already active inside of our demo tenants. Now that's great, right? So we can see we've got a default policy for teams, devices, US financial data, and GDPR. But we know when you go ahead and, maybe you're setting these things up for the first time, you probably don't have these already baked in, right? So how do you create them? Well, really simply, we're going to click on Create Policy. And this is really, I think, where Microsoft shines, making everything convenient, accessible, easily understood. So right at the top, it says start with the template or create a custom policy. What I personally recommend is you can go ahead and start with a template, and then within that template, get as granular or custom as you need it to be, right? So let's take a look at some of the different categories here. So we got enhanced, financial, medical and health, privacy, and custom. Let's go ahead and click on financial. Right here brings up a lot of the most utilized ones, right? Regarding financial. Notice these are kind of siloed into different verticals, right? Now, what you can do if you only want to see templates that are, maybe relevant to where your organization is, maybe you want to filter them by countries or regions, you can do that. I'm going to do that now. So let's go ahead and choose United States. Click on financial again. And now we're only seeing financial templates for DLP policies associated with USA. You can do the same thing with medical and health, privacy, so on and so forth. But let's say you wanted to know what these templates actually do, right? So instead of going online and searching and trying to figure out what do these actually mean, if you just select one here, you can see off to the right-hand side now it's going to populate, tell you exactly what this policy is intended for. So this one here helps detect the presence of information subject to US FTC consumer rules. So things like data like credit card numbers, right? So this is a template that you could use to protect credit card numbers, bank account numbers, ABA routing numbers. For today's purposes, let's leave this one selected. And at the bottom of the screen, let's go ahead and click on Next. For the name, go ahead and leave it as is, but append your first name to the end of it. And as a heads up, when we get through to the end of creating the policy and we all go to create them at once, because we're all in the same environment, all but one of us is going to get an error message as a heads up. Okay. Doesn't mean that they don't go through, doesn't mean that they're not created. It just means that, you're only going to have one per tenant, right? So, don't freak out when we get to the end. I just want to throw that out there now. Now, the description will leave as is, but if you were doing something specific or, whatever notes would be pertinent, you could go ahead and add these into the description. We're going to leave it as is for now, and let's come on down to next. Okay, admin units. So if you utilize Entra and you want to assign, right, individual admin units, groups of people, right, users for this policy, this is where you could do that. We're not going to get into that today. We're just going to have it apply to our full directory. Let's go ahead and go next. So now it's asking us, hey, choose where you want to apply the policy. We'll apply the policy to data that's stored in the locations that you choose. So notice it extends to email, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, chat and channel messages, which is huge because how much of our communication nowadays is done through Teams? I'd probably say the lion's share of it, right? To be honest, as well as devices, any instances on-prem repos. And if you wanted to extend it to Power BI workspaces, you do have that option as well. Let's go ahead and leave them all selected and go to next. So this screen right here just kind of confirms what it is that we want to protect, right? So credit card numbers, bank account, ABA. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and click on next. And now this is where we're going to get a little granular. Okay, so we're going to make some changes. We're going to get a little specific. We're going to take a look at confidence levels, all sorts of good stuff here. So on this screen, I want everybody to join me. Let's go ahead and click on edit. You'll see a kind of like a window pop up on the right-hand side of the screen. It'll take over most of your screen, actually. And you're going to see the different types of information that we're looking to protect today with this policy, along with, off to the right-hand side, confidence levels, high confidence, medium, and medium. Now, when we talk about confidence levels, this is really just setting the sensitivity level for the AI that's looking for this specific type of information here, right? So, there is a balance between, wanting to make sure that your organization is secure, but you're also not getting a ton of false positives, right? So in an example here, maybe let's say a credit card has 16 digits, okay? But maybe your company sends out packaging numbers that are also 16 digits. We want to make sure that only credit card numbers are being flagged and not every packaging number, okay? So in that kind of scenario, you may adjust the sensitivity level of the AI, okay? Because if you were to set everything at high confidence, right? And this goes for everything security wise for the most part. You can't go well, I mean, you can do anything you want, but it would not be conducive to go to the highest levels of every single option, because then what ends up happening more often than not is you get so many false positives in your environment that it actually impedes everybody's ability to do day-to-day work, right? So that's why, and we'll touch on this again in a minute, it's always recommended to turn on your policies when you're creating something like this in test mode, in gleaning the information that you get while it's running in test mode, and then adjust as you see fit, right? Before you go to turn it on fully, so that way it is active and actually, preventing certain things from going out and being shared, so on and so forth. We're not going to adjust any of these levels, oh, by the way. So go ahead and click save or click cancel, either one. And let's go ahead and go next. And then notice all of these are checked for us, okay? I do want to point out this top one right here. When content matches the policy conditions, show policy tips to users and send them a notification, okay? So with this selected, with this enabled here, it'll basically give us a little warning or red flag to remind us that, maybe we have information in a document or an email message or inside of Teams that we should not be sending out, right? Like, for example, if I create an email that has a credit card number or a social security number inside of it, a notification is going to appear that will say policy tip, you shouldn't send this out. And it can also even go a step further and fully prevent that email from being sent out at all. We'll get to see that here in action in just a few. So we're going to leave the rest of these at default here, and let's go ahead and go next. Go ahead and come on down here towards the bottom of this page and notice that you even have the option to restrict third-party apps. So maybe you're an organization that has data that lives in multiple locations, right? Maybe it's not just all inside of Office, okay? So you can extend it to Box, G Suite, Cisco WebEx, Dropbox, Salesforce, okay? Um, you know, that's if you don't use Dynamics, right? Which I'm sure probably most of us do, for those of us that need it. But basically, what I'm trying to get across here is whatever third-party apps that you try to use, Microsoft does do their best to help cover every area for your company, to protect your data for your customers, so on and so forth. So at the bottom of the page, let's go ahead and click next. And this is where you're taking a look at policy mode. Okay, so this is kind of what I alluded to just a couple of minutes ago. So when you're creating, pardon me, when you're creating a policy, always recommended you run it first in test mode. So that way you can review the alerts to assess the policy's impact, meaning any restrictions will not be enforced. Okay. What we're going to do for today's purposes, just for testing, all right, is I want everybody to turn the policy on immediately, just so we can see it in action. Okay. But no, in real world, you're going to want to run it in test mode first. And Sean, I do see your question in there. I'll get to that in just a second. And anybody else has questions as we roll along, feel free to drop those in. Absolutely. Please ask away. Let's go ahead and go next. And we can see this is the information we're looking to protect. Here's the description. We didn't change that. Here are the locations. Okay. Policy settings, and are we turning it on? Yes, we are. Let's go ahead and click on submit. Okay, so like I mentioned, a majority of us are going to see this message. Don't freak out. You're fine. You didn't do anything wrong. Okay, go ahead and just click on OK. And then what I want you to do is just actually close this tab entirely. And then come on back to the Compliance Admin Center. Just kind of reload it. Come on back to the left, Data Loss Prevention. Click on Policies. And then, just like I mentioned, even though it says failed, everybody should be able to see them. Okay, for those of us that did push it through, at least. I'll give it a refresh here to see if any more come through, but they should be coming through here in just a couple of minutes. And now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to test out the efficiency of this policy, right? We're going to want to see, hey, does this actually work? Now, again, this is just one scenario, okay? This is not the way that we set it up is not going to be like a one size fits all. Okay. This is just walking you through what a policy looks like, how you can kind of fine tune it, some changes you would make, kind of like Tyler's mentioning there, right? Some of the things associated with the sensitivity levels that you set, right? Also with the digit count too, right? So 1 to 9 digits, 1 to 10, so on and so forth, right? It's not going to be a one size fits all. You do have to toy with them. That's why test first, see the alerts, make your changes after, before going full, before going with it fully active. But let's test this out here together. Come up to the very first tab that we were in when we launched today. Bring us back to the office.com home screen. Then top left-hand corner, go ahead and click on this waffle icon. And we want to go ahead and select Outlook. Now, top left, go ahead and click on New Email. And in the to line, go ahead and just click inside of it once. Should bring up some names here in a second. Or maybe if we type in a name, it'll autofill it for us. There we go. Just takes a second for it to load. But when you click inside, just grab any one of the suggested contacts. Okay. And then in the subject, go ahead and type in Visa. And then what I want everybody to do is inside the message portion, okay, of the email, you can just kind of copy and paste that in if you like. And let's go ahead and click send. Now, sometimes it does take a little bit for the policy to actually work, okay? So like, for example, right now, Diego's is coming straight through to me. All right, Diego's is coming straight through. Let's go and give it another shot. Sometimes it'll work right away, okay? Other times it can take up to 30 minutes. As a heads up, the recommended 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The recommended amount of like lead time it should take or can take up to, I guess I should say, is 24 hours. Okay, so now we can see I just tried to send it out again and I got a notification. That notification said that our message was blocked, right? Saying that we're not allowed to send that out. Let me show you that again. Let's go Alex, Lisa, right here. Your email message conflicts with a policy inside of your organization. Wasn't delivered because the message contains the following sensitive information: credit card number. So just with the way that we had it set up, just by using the template, the sensitivity label was able to detect that the information we put in there matches credit card number, so it prevented the email from being sent out to Alex. Okay. And because, we all have admin rights, you should be seeing that same kind of message, right? You should be getting the email notification sent to you stating, hey, this is what's going on, that the policy was tripped, essentially. Okay. So this is just one kind of like small example here. It's nothing crazy, but it's nice to see it work in real time, right? And so as we go on and we're about to get into another piece, I wanted to prompt everybody real quick with this poll question. Which M365 security features are you most interested in implementing or improving within your organization? Is it threat protection? So things like anti-phishing, anti-malware. Is it data protection, right? Something we're just working with right now, DLP. Is it identity and access management? So things like MFA, conditional access. Is it compliance management overall? So, GDPR, HIPAA, okay? Or is it something else? Is it other? And I appreciate everybody interacting with the polls here. Okay. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next piece here, and we're going to talk about information protection. I want to show everybody how to make a sensitivity label. Now, this can do kind of like two things for you essentially, right? It can label a document as you're viewing it, and it can also encrypt the document. So if you encrypt the document, that means that any user has to have permission before it can be viewed. So, even if you send it to someone else, right, it'll still be encrypted. So that way only people with the appropriate permissions are able to access it, which then just adds an extra layer of security. So if you're labeling your documents, it helps with organizing and just making sure that any sort of important information you got sitting around is protected and not inappropriately shared, right? Let's say maybe you're looking to send out like a 100-page document. If you have information protection sensitivity labels enabled, even if there's only one social security number on page 56, the program's going to detect it, let you know that there's sensitive information on the document, and it's going to apply a watermark in the header or footer or both. Okay, just depending on how you decide to set it up. We're going to set it up so that way it displays top, middle, and bottom, kind of all over the page. I think sensitivity labels are fantastic. Unfortunately, we don't think, or I don't think we see enough people using them inside of their organizations. Donna, would you agree? Is sensitivity labels, is it something that you feel like organizations underutilize, something they're unsure of? What are you saying when somebody comes to you and asks you about them?
Yeah, it's not one of the most well-known or most popular features that's used. It should be, but it's
It
not.
should be. Exactly. It should be. So, because
I mean,
it
we
should
still see
be,
people not turning on multi-factor authentication and
well,
using that. And hopefully, if you're on this call and you don't have MFA implemented across the board in your organization with the O365, that's the first thing you need to do. And if you don't have that, you should do that immediately. And there's some people that are just so adverse to it, but it will mitigate 99% of your issues.
it really will. A lot of times, Donna, who is it in an organization that's so averse to it? What would you say? Who typically is it?
You won't believe this because I couldn't, but I had a CIO that was adverse to it. And that's really not the norm. But it usually is that middle management that just they think they're going to cause headache amongst their users, and I'm
Mm,
like, but you have to do it with your bank. I mean, you have to do it with
yeah.
almost everything these days, and people are getting more and more used to it. So I have one customer who they don't pay for the cell phones, and they didn't want to put the app on the phones they didn't want to inconvenience their end users to use their own cell phone to get an app, just a lot of just weird stuff. But at the end of the day, if you want to protect that data, um, you need MFA.
You 100% do. Okay, couldn't have said it better myself. And yeah, I mean, we've got about 18 minutes here. This sensitivity label is going to be quick to create, and I'll touch on MFA too. Maybe not as in depth, because I think we kind of covered. I think we hammered it home pretty good there. Everybody should have MFA enabled. If you don't already, please get it enabled. I'll touch on a couple of reasons as to why here in a few minutes, but what we're going to do here is to go ahead and spin up a sensitivity label. And as a heads up, this is one of those things where that's different from the DLP, okay? Because when we enact it, it will take up to an hour, okay? We're not going to be able to see it active more often than not right at the very beginning. So we're going to go through, show you how to set it up, but just note we may not see it in practice active inside of the time that we have here together. So what we're going to want to do is back into the Compliance Admin Center. Last time inside the Compliance Admin Center, we were in the DLP blade. Now we're going to hover on down just a couple to the Information Protection blade. Pardon me. And with that expanded, we're going to select labels. And now what you're going to notice is this is going to be a very familiar feel and look and process as to how we did the policy. Okay, but go ahead for this one. We'll click on create a label. And notice we've got another wizard, right? There's no sort of, code that you're having to write and all this madness. Okay. It's literally just you click, point, drag, fill out your information, off to the races. Okay. So let's go ahead for our label here. Let's go ahead and create one to protect SSN. That's going to be the theme behind this sensitivity label. So go ahead and call it protect SSN. And then I will append my name to it. And then do the same thing for the display name. Now, right down here, you do have the option to add a description for users. Okay, so that way anybody who may need to utilize these labels and things like that, they understand what they're for. Okay, but also there's a space to add some information for admins who are responsible for managing things like the label itself. Okay, and then you do have the option as well to kind of color code, right, to distinguish maybe its purpose. So say you're creating multiple sensitivity labels for, different things, maybe legal, PII, etc. Okay. For today, go ahead and just pick any color you like for kicks. I'm gonna pick blue, and let's go ahead and go next. And let's go description, protect SSN. There we go. If you get that same little arrow, put in protect SSN for description for users, because it is required. And let's go next. So this is where we're defining the scope for our label. Notice the labels can be applied directly to files, emails, meetings, containers like SharePoint sites, Teams, Fabric, Power BI, schematized data assets, and more. Okay. We are going to leave all of these selected here. Okay. We can't choose groups or sites just because we're inside of this training environment. All right. But go ahead and come on down to the bottom and click on next. Now for protection settings, go ahead and select both apply or remove encryption. So control who can access items that have this label applied, and apply content marking. Select both of those. Because we do essentially want our files, right, to be self-protecting by nature. It's kind of like putting a lock in our documents. That way only those who have, a key can access it, right? In this scenario, only those that we give permission in the next couple of steps to will be able to access it. So go ahead and click on next. And these are our encryption settings. So the user access to content expires. This is a good option, okay, for setting a time limit on any given user's access. And then once it passes, the specified date or the number of days after the label is applied, that document is going to lock down. It just makes sure that there's no loose ends. There's not a document available that, anybody who doesn't need to have access to it all the time, they're not going to have access to it if you go ahead and choose one of these options here. So, maybe say that, there's a specific part of your organization or a couple of people that need to deal with documents and files that include sensitive information, but they only need access to that document for a handful of days to get what they need to get done. That's when a good option like on a specific date or a number of days after a label is applied would be a good option here. Now, assign permissions to specific users and groups. Go ahead and click on Assign Permissions. And for today's purposes, just, it's our training, it's our demo environment. Just go ahead and add all users and groups in your organization. And then click on Save. And if you have a smaller org, right, then maybe this makes sense. Okay, if everybody just views everything inside of the org, okay, this makes sense. If not, if you need to exclude individuals, you can. So you can, only add specific users or specific email addresses or individual users. Okay, you can get granular there. But for today, just go ahead and click on Add All and then Save. Let's go ahead and go next. Now we're into the content marking piece, okay? Let's go ahead and click on that little slider and select Add a watermark and add a header. What we want to have happen when the label is applied to a document that contains sensitive information is we want it to be very obvious on that document that there's sensitive information here. Okay, and that's where watermarks, headers, and footers come into play for us. So let's go ahead for the watermark, click on Customize Text. And for the text portion here off to the right-hand side, type in Do Not Send PII. And then the font size, let's change it from 10 to 100. The font color, pick a color. I'm going to go red. And the text layout, so whether you want it to be splayed across a page diagonally or horizontal, I think diagonal is best. Okay, I think that's the most obvious, corner to corner. Big red lettering, Do Not Send PII in 100 font, and save. For header, keep it easy and just type in Do Not Send PII. If you wanted it to be huge font color, and you can even choose the alignment of the text as well. You have that option. Click on Save. And then same thing here for footer. Do not send PII. Now let's go ahead and click on Next. We do want to turn on auto labeling for files and emails. Okay, go ahead and click on that slider here. And where it says detect content that matches these conditions, let's go ahead and add a condition. So click on Add Condition, Content Contains. And then click on Add Again, Sensitive Information Types. Now a blade's going to appear on the right-hand side of the screen. For this label in particular, we're just looking for social. So we're looking for US Social Security number. Have that one selected, click on add, and then notice we've got our AI sensitivity label or level, I should say now, right, for the AI. Leave it as medium, that's fine. But when content matches these conditions, automatically apply the label. And then for the display message, when the label is applied, go ahead and just again put in do not send PII. Then we'll go next. We're not going to play around with protection settings for groups and sites for today's purposes, neither for schematized data assets. Go all the way to the end and create label. Now you can create as many labels that you like, but they don't actually go into play, and they're not actually active until you publish a label to make a policy. Okay, so that's why it's asking us right now, do you want to publish the label to users app? So create a label policy to make the label available in Office apps, SharePoint, Teams, and 365, so on and so forth. Let's go ahead and click on done. Create auto labeling policy, create policy. Click on create. Click on review again here real quick. We'll go next. Yep, admin units is fine. The locations. Yep, that's the rule. Perfect. The label to auto apply, protect SSN. And then right now it's saying run policy in simulation mode. That's fine. And create. And it may already be created. And because we were again in the same tenant, that's why it's giving us that little notification. Not a big deal. And just close out of that. Come on back to labels. And we should be able to see it in here in a minute. Again, these take some time, okay, to actually load, be utilized, or be active, I should say, okay. We can see the scope for the label here. I will show you what it looks like when it's active because, you know, I can't display this one like I could with the DLP. But this is essentially what it would look like when the policy, or I'm sorry, the label is applied to a document, okay, that contains sensitive information, like for today's example, a social security number. We would see that big do not send PII splayed across the page. We would also see inside of the header and the footer. And, you know, anything that was attempted to be done with that document, whatever rules that we set forth would apply. Okay. All right. Perfect. Now, I do have another poll here, which is how soon does your organization plan to initiate or enhance your M365 security strategy? So are you looking to get into M365, your strategy for security, or O365, right, within the next 3 months, 6 months, next year, or maybe you're just kind of undecided, something you're thinking about, you're not sure, you're just trying to learn, you're just trying to figure out what's going on here. And again, appreciate everybody's interaction with the polls. Everybody's a little different. We could be looking to do it like yesterday. Some of us, we just know it's something we have to do because maybe our organization's growing and expanding faster than we realized, which is not always a bad place to be, right? We did talk about MFA and its importance. Again, I won't harp on it too much, but just know that lost or stolen credentials are actually the cause of like 80 to 90% of security related breaches. Okay, because your username and your passwords that you use, those are just the first line of defense. Second should always be MFA. If you have MFA enabled, it can block anywhere from 80 to 99.9% of cyber attacks that involve compromised credentials. I can't stress that enough, right? That's a huge number. Now, with the couple of minutes that we do have here left together, I want to take everybody over into to see how you can view your secure score, okay? Which is a really great kind of like visualized data-driven picture, right? Of the current state of your organization security posture. So the way that we can take a look at that here is let's come on back because we need to jump into a different admin center for this one. So come on back to the first tab, click on admin. We'll click show all again. And now instead of hopping in the compliance admin center, just jump into the security admin center. And then off to the left-hand side of the screen, you should see the secure score blade. Go ahead and give that a click. And then it kind of brings us to the overview of your secure score. Now, what it is, why it's important, I'll kind of go over it briefly here while we have, just a minute or two remaining. This basically shows you, again, the entire security state posture of your organization and the opportunities that you have to improve upon it. So everything that you put into your security solutions computes into a percentage that Microsoft provides to show you how well you're actually doing with your security. And your score is built from the policies and tools that you enable inside of your suite. Okay, think of your secure score very much akin to like a credit score. Okay, it's just a great way to see where your security stands against kind of a baseline, right? And see where maybe your biggest deficits are. So this right here, it shows us our score is 24.1%. Okay, and it's giving us some points here by category. Okay, now also notice it shows us how many things that should be addressed. Okay, that Microsoft's recommending and our top recommended actions. So right here, for example, ensure MFA is enabled for all users. Okay, in admin roles, ensure MFAs enabled for all users, enable conditional access policies to block legacy authentication, ensure phishing resistant MFA strength is required for admins. Okay. And then if you want to see the full list, you just tab on over one to recommended actions. And now you can see all of them broken down for you really, really simply. Okay. Some actions give a bigger bump than others. And also at the bottom, you'll see what has actually been completed so far. So it's kind of like a good task, a checklist, right? If you will. You can also see from the history tab here, kind of where your score has been, where it is now, okay, where you're trending. You're never going to be 100%. 100% will be too restrictive for anybody to be able to get stuff done every day. So keep that in mind. But, generally recommended 60% and up is kind of like a good place to be. If anybody's looking for a baseline, 60% and up. I'd say 60 should kind of be like the minimum. You kind of want to be somewhere in that 70 to 80% range. All right. Now, I do have another poll question here, which is, would you be interested in scheduling a personalized consultation with our 365 security experts to discuss your organization's specific needs and challenges? So this is with OnPar. So anything that you are curious about, have questions on, you're looking for immediate, maybe semi-long term, or you have a bunch of questions, right? So simple, yes, maybe, or hey, no, I'm good. No matter where you're at on that spectrum, we appreciate everybody's participation. I hope everybody enjoyed today's session. I felt like we got to cover, a good amount of ground here. If anybody has any last second questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I'd like to rope in Donna real quick. Donna, is there anything that you'd like to leave all these fantastic people with as we close this out?
Sure, Dave. So, again, thank you guys for attending. And if you need some assistance, if you responded yes, please contact me. We will do that. I'm also going to drop our sales email in the chat. And if you want to reach out to us here at sales at onpartech.com, then feel free to do that as well. But we'd love to provide you with, we also do security assessments. And for people on this call, if you would like a free security assessment against your O365 tenant, we can discuss that as well. So feel free to reach out, and we'll see if there's some synergies between our companies. Thank you so much.
Everybody's favorite four-letter word there, Donna put out there, a free security assessment. How about that? I love it. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here today. Appreciated all of your time and your questions and your interaction. Hope you have a great rest of the week, and please don't hesitate to reach out should you have any further questions. Thank you so much.